For those of you who don't know Steve Goldberg, congratulations. For those of you who do, sorry. Steve used to write to get checks, but now wants cash, and we all know poetry is not the way. He has a history of poor choices, like this. Please welcome Steve Goldberg!
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you. You are too.
Well, you haven't seen me yet.
Oh, but I believe in you, Steve.
That's one. So I don't know. The other readers do you have to pee soon?
So it's in the blue bucket.
Sort of. It's a blue book. Thanks.
Someone grab the bucket.
All right. Let's give me some room here. These are all the devices to calm myself down. Religious. If there really is a God, he must be a New Yorker and an Italian Jew. And if he exists, how do I know that he likes me? I know because he's constantly breaking my balls. So I pray, enough already, goddammit. And then he would say to me, forget it. And buy me a pastrami sandwich with the Dr. Brown's. It doesn't hurt, though. No, only if you need. Only if you need. I prefer fast guy. So, from Cleveland, and there's a rather historic cemetery there that Frederick Garfield has his memorial there.
And Harvey Peacock. And Harvey.
Yeah! It's really an awesome place, and I try to go there each year. It's got all kinds of famous folks. We got Alan Freed, the inventor of rock and roll, at least the word, Elliot Ness, and so here's one from being there to this. I'll walk through a famous cemetery filled with famous people, or rather formerly famous people, or rather former people, that is corpses. I did this. The famous cemetery was filled with something that most do not sense. Lovely dogwoods flowering on the spring, accompanying daffodils layered on a hill, breezes full of perfume swim across manicured grass. The grace of swans skim along ponds. They are all the same as at most people's homes, though most of us don't have ponds or swans. Though maybe a duck, if there is a pond. We have the same swallows, robins, and starlings. Things so familiar that a burial grounds version merely elicits complacency, if noticed at all. We also have the stillness, if we intend as such, apparently. With phone ringers off, alarms muted, no radio, no TV, no naughty-haired munchkins, no nagging wife. Yes, I have silence. And the cemetery has silence, but with an important partner that makes all the difference between here and home. A stealthy companion, always there but rarely felt. Not cliched death as most would conclude in this context, but peace. That rare and precious commodity, peace. I'm having trouble reading that because I can't see it. Oh, that's better, but I can't see you guys. Don't get old.
We're not that good looking.
Well, look what you got to compare yourself with.
We believe.
You're my new best friend. I'm going to read one from my book, History is an Afterthought. Came out a few years ago. My publisher, Jason Reberg, probably doesn't give a shit. But I do. With success. With success comes expectation of success. But success slides in through the back door, ignoring all the conventions of polite company. It comes suddenly, without knocking. It knocks over vases and spills milk. Expectation demands recreation of the unplanned, of the unconventional. that which cannot be manufactured. It shows itself obnoxious, rude, a fat hobo at the back door, hands out, stinking of itself, hate in its eyes. It is pressure and more expectation, an expectation that kills its parents, destroys the good, that generated success in the first place. So success is a failure, and it's easier to skip to the end, close the lights, light a cigarette, sip a beer, and check the lock on the back door. So I want to first acknowledge my friend Richard Larner of Oakland, because he taught me the word ululation. This was called Tongue Tickles and Tears. A usual morning coffee routine of usual YouTube scans, when my ever-present fascination of language and pronunciation was piqued by a thumbnail on the origination of the rolling R. That strange and delightful reverberation that resides in exotic lands, across seas, and remain in some isolated English-speaking enclaves with peculiar accents and dialects that make conversations into melodious songs. My anticipation of learning such esoterica was abruptly severed with a vision clouded by teared-up eyes. Shit. An unswallowed mouthful of coffee, caught in the throat by breath that would not come. Through the tearful fog, images of the past replaced the laptop screen. Memories of a gray-haired woman making me laugh with tongue-rolling sounds. Sounds that a little boy could not reproduce. The feeling of her outstretched index finger on my lips, interrupting my vain attempts to roll those R's. Her crow-footed eyes, squinting as her laugh lines deepen, full of the special joy that only comes from organic, solitary scenes of intimate connection. As the present day returned, I found I still had a mouthful of coffee. After a swallow, yet another attempt to recreate that sound, to feel the ululation of tongue on roof mouth, to hear the geriatric giggle. As unsuccessful now as it was in high school French class, as it was sitting on her lap. For my efforts, I was left with body-shaking sobs, salty liquid on a cheek, a sigh. So many decades ago, instead. I miss my breath. I did that poem from Goldberg lines, and still, I can't get rid of it. So staying in the vein of family, you guys don't know, but so 7 weeks ago, I became a great-grandfather. Just one note on this poem. I use the word mama lotion, which means mother tongue in English. So I'm a Zaidi. Yes, I am too young to be a great-grandfather, a Zaidi in the mama lotion of my people. And was what I called my great-grandfather, a privilege that was still very rare to my generation, and was the norm of the times. Marriage and childbearing was done young. One-way cemetery visits were also done young, and many times too often. I remember sitting on my Zaidi's lap as we watched the black and white TV one summer in 1969. Me, almost 7 years old, Chaim, 91 years old, still functioning, talkative, and very loving to his family. Through the flicker on the screen, we see a man-like figure, dressed almost like the Michelin Man, hop off a ladder on a bug-looking vehicle. A small step, he said. Mein Zaidi said, "Phew." I asked, "What's wrong?" And so began a discussion here, one of life in the old country, of no cars, of no radio, of no electricity, of kingdoms and of empires and of persecution. This, he said, was of storybooks, of fancy tales told over fireplaces, of translated books by Jules Verne, now a reality never imagined possible when sitting on a ship across the Atlantic. This was my Zadie, my archetype extraordinaire. I can't help but wonder if the squiggly little pink bundle in my arms, tiny hand grasping my pinky, will one day climb into my lap as some world-shaking event unfolds, informed by an interrupted streaming service, or brain implant, or telepathic broadcast. Miracles to my lifetime. Maybe we'll finally be the cure to cancer, or successful Mars colony establishment, or dare I even dream it, world peace. I can hear myself repeat a phew, and maybe she also will be interested in why. Then stories of a time long ago, with landline phones and computers in industrial cabinets and smoky bars, of 56-cent gasoline for cars that used gasoline, of visiting neighbors from around the world who shared their kind of food, shared their kind of song, of being outside to play, kick the can, hide and seek, red light, green light, and drinking water from a random garden hose when we were finished. If I followed the blueprint drawn for me those many years ago, she'll remember her Zadie, the same wonder of his world, like I did of mine. I'm referring to you way too often, Miles. He teaches philosophy sometimes, and has taught me a lot about Stoicism. So this one has an epigraph by Seneca. It is not what we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot. Remember when in our youth our supportive parents used to tell us we can do anything, we can see everything, and that it is only up to us and our determination? Well-intentioned lives, projected dreams they themselves failed to live, but we try. We maneuver through all that life requires of us, fulfilling expectations demanded by those encouraging parents, expectations they felt should be taught as lessons in pragmatism. Yet in facing our own geezerhood, and our parents is still around facing their own dotage, it is inescapably recognized that we will not see any of those lions and elephants on the Serengeti, see the northern lights dancing in Iceland. We will not learn didgeridoo from Australian Aboriginals, nor discover the cancer cure, or even finish a simple backyard re-terraformation, or develop the Schwarzenegger body, or write the great or even mediocre American novel. We will not be able to read all the books we want. We will not watch all the classic movies we aspire. We will not make all that money to share with family, to contribute to cherished causes, or even to just hoard. We must concede things are not going to be seen. Things are not going to be done. The perfection once envisioned in dreams from an optimistic youth will remain unactualized. There is just not enough time to learn the skills, never mind to master them. Stoic Seneca has said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." Prioritizing and multitasking is not enough. Capability does not match aspiration, no matter what propaganda our parents fed into malleable minds and developing psyches. It is not their fault, and it's difficult to admit it's not our fault either. Recognition is the big step, but it is not wisdom in of itself. The wisdom is what to do with this revelation, this recognition that so much of our lives were wasted. What do we do now? I don't know how many big festivals you folks have seen. I know a number of you have, because that's how I met you guys back 10, 15, 20 years, almost 20 years past. But honestly, having done one myself, it's a lot of freaking work, and I really should give it another hand. Because this shit is hard to pull together. And, thank you. This last one, I call Xanadu's talismans. I always start my day looking out the kitchen window while always necessary coffee brews. The gaze is at my large yard and tiny patio, searching for clues because inevitably there'll be a new frivolous item left on the unkempt lawn, on the patio table or rusting chair, or snuck under an untrimmed bush, or laying on a weedy flower bed. Much of the time it is a ball, small but sometimes large, white or blue or pink, faded by a long forgotten sun. Once it was a Barbie doll, sitting on a chair like it was waiting for a waiter to bring afternoon tea. Another time there was a couple of toy soldiers scattered around the patio drain, bivouac before a siege, or maybe just lying about in blissful relief of surviving an impossible onslaught, like a recent summer storm. For the first few days, I keep each of these items right where I first saw them. Maybe the owners will return to collect them. Who these owners are, I have no idea. It has been months since neighbors with children were around, moved away with the frequent shifting winds of misfortune. A longtime neighbor, an old man much younger than I, left suddenly after living there for a few decades. He took his visiting grandchildren with him. I am left without the joyous laughter of little people playing, left only with the silence of my own curmudgeonry. After those few days, I moved the pieces to a box in the garage, just in case their masters come back. Occasionally as I passed, I picked them up one by one and gazed in wonder, the wonder if tears were shed for their loss. On another morning of my coffee routine, through the window, I saw a deer, a young doe with dark inquisitive eyes, nosing a ball around on the patio before nibbling on ostriches that go by the garage. That got me thinking that maybe critters bring the things to my yard, as if the yard was a safe place, like a bank or a church, sacred ground. Animals have always visited. I once had a rabbit stretch out and nap in the pergola's shade before the mischievous Cleveland weather blew it to bits. Groundhogs would come in early spring to call Phil a liar. For years, a black and white cat has trotted through, so feral it refuses food left out even in winter. The aforementioned deer and probably its immediate ancestors. I've seen dogs both singly and in 3 or 4 member packs come by to sniff a bit and sometimes frolic around. Some of the balls found have tooth marks of canine delight on them. Perhaps they belong to them. In a corner of the garden, a stone Buddha statue watches all these going-ons through half-closed meditative eyes. They seem to want me to believe that at least some of these speculations are true. That yes, these toys, things of joy and delight, belong to the shadow children, belong to urban wildlife, belong to garden gnomes, to leprechauns and wood nymphs and fairies and reincarnated spirits of past and future. They belong to returning souls and future visiting entities, to ghosts, to children not yet born, to anybody that yearns to have some fun and unattached joy, to anybody that desires the blissful freedom of just being here. Here, in this unexpected, unprepared oasis, miraculous in my neglected backyard, its chivalry, its honest wildness and undiscovered playfulness welcomes all to participate. Even me. A cup of morning coffee is optional. Thank you.
Steve, can I tell you a secret? I'm happy to know you.
Oh,